Reading from Psalm 103. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who forgives all your iniquities, who heals all your diseases. Do you want to say it with me? I think it's good enough to say it together, right? Those of you who have your Bible. Bless the Lord, O my soul, all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. Put the emphasis in the right places. All his benefits. Who forgives all your iniquities, who heals all your diseases. Anything you're ill at ease about. We always think of disease as strictly physical, but it means anything you are ill at ease about. All dis-ease, anything you're not comfortable with. He heals all your diseases. Now, I want to title this talk, The Practice of Self-Healing. The practice of self-healing. But before I actually begin into that, I want to talk a little bit about this psalm. Bless the Lord, O my soul. First thing is, when we say, bless the Lord, O my soul, does God need our blessing? God doesn't need our blessing. God doesn't even need worship. Uh-oh. God doesn't need worship. God doesn't need any blessing. What this is showing us an attitude of our own minds and hearts. And this is the first thing we have to realize when we do and work with healing. You know, it's easy to go to a healer. What's rough, I found it over the years, what's hard for me, now, and I'm speaking as a minister, but nonetheless, I'm just the same as you. You realize that? Do you realize that? I'm just the same as you, no different. Just because I have a title that says Reverend or that says Doctor, it means diddly squat. It's only a title. But I face the same problems you face. I face the difficulties, the challenges, the negative thoughts. Everything you face, I face also. There is no difference. There is no line of demarcation. No line of separation. We are all in the same boat. We're all in everyone, nations, governments, politicians, I don't care, you name them, including doctors and everyone else, we're all in the same boat. We don't like to think so. But we are. We're all in that same boat. And what this psalm, what's interesting here is what the psalmist, that is the songwriter here is talking to his own soul. And the word for soul, I've told you this many times on a Sunday, the word for soul is nausha in Aramaic and nephesh in Hebrew. It's the same word, they just pronounce it differently. If I were to spell it, it's the same identical spelling, Aramaic and Hebrew. It uses the same letters, but it's just pronounced differently. And it means self. So what the psalmist is saying, oh self, oh self. It's the self that needs to be talked to. This is why I call this the practice of what? Self-healing. Self-healing. Another word, we use the word soul. Soul healing. Your own soul, your own self, your own body does the healing. And we never bless our bodies or our organs, do we? I don't think about it, do you? As long as they're functioning, I never think about them. It's when they start to go wrong that I start to think about them. Oh, you look so innocent out there this morning. You know, we don't realize that God has equipped the body with healing forces. We have this within us. Just recently, I was up in near Buffalo. In fact, it was at a school called Fellowship of the Spirit. I helped open up that school, initiated with all the founders of the school called Fellowship of the Spirit, and it was 20 some odd years ago. And every year in November, I go up there to open up the school because it starts in November. And I open up, and the first night there, that we always work with healing. And they always like to hear and I have to tell it, I've been telling this story now for over 20 some odd years. You don't want to hear that. I have lots of other healing stories I can tell you about. They said, no, we want to hear that one. And the one they always want to hear about is the one on where the young man, he was 18 years old, his name was John Dean, and it was the healing took place in the hospital room. Of all places for you to get healed is in a hospital. How many here, you've all heard this story, haven't you? How many here have not heard it? Oh, well, where have you been? I don't want to tell the whole story, but it's just how the body calls and how we're all tied to each other. I started off my morning in meditation. I have to, especially when, we got the kids off to school, we did everything, and I didn't want to get down to the church too early, because if I get down there, forget about prayer, meditation, the phone rings, this call, this goes wrong, that kind. So I always do the meditation before I leave the house. And this was in San Antonio, and I was pastoring in San Antonio. And while I sat down and I started to meditate and pray, all of a sudden I heard my name call. In the room, out loud, I heard them say, Brother Rocky. And I've told you this before, I hate the name Rocky. Even though my name is Rocco. But I never liked to be called Rocky, because they always associated me with Rocky Graziano, the prize fighter. And I was the opposite of that. I didn't want to fight. And I heard my name called. But everyone in the church always called me that. So I thought, I'm hearing things, which I was. So I went back to prayer, and I heard it at least 2 more times. But I said, well, what is it? What is it? Samuel, the prophet, he heard his name called when he was a little boy. He heard Samuel, Samuel. And remember what the old priest told him is to say, here am I, Lord. Well, that's what I said, but I didn't get any answer. And so I went to church and sat down at the desk, and then I heard my name called again. This time I heard it out in the hallway and in the narthex. And I ran out into the narthex, into the hallway, and didn't see anyone. Then I thought it was outside by the baptismal, not there. And I thought, what in the world is going on? And then the phone rang, someone said, "Oh, did you hear John Dean is in the hospital?" I said, "No, which hospital?" "This is the Baptist Memorial right downtown." I said, "Well, I'll get in the car right down there and go." So I did and went down there, got to the nurse's station, asked for John Dean. They told me which floor, and I went up there, and then went up to the nurse's station up there. And then as I was speaking to the nurse, I heard my name called again, "Brother Rocky." I turned around, but there was a body with it this time. And it was John Dean's mother, Betty. And Betty said to me, "Oh, Brother Rocky, I've been calling you all morning long." I says, "Well, for heaven's sakes, Betty, why didn't you use the phone?" She said, "I didn't have any money. I've been here all night long, and I didn't want to ask anybody for anything, and so I've been calling you and out loud." I said, "I know, I've been hearing it. But I want to show you, the connection. The connection is there. We think we're separate. You think you're separate from me and I'm separate from you? We're not. We're one. We're one. And her cry, I heard it audibly. Audibly, I heard it. It wasn't in here, I heard it here. Some inner ear opened up. Probably anyone else in the house wouldn't have heard it, but I heard it. And so I said, "What's wrong?" She says, "It's John. He has meningitis and encephalitis, a combination. And the doctors don't give much hope. They're in there now giving another spinal tap. It is so strong they're going to have to drill holes in his head to relieve the pressure. He's in total darkness." I said, "Okay." So we went. First, I said, "We got to take care of you." So we started to pray right then and there. I said, "Number one, you've got to get rid of fear. That's the first thing in self-healing, is fear." And I said, so in this case, it was for John. When you're doing it for yourself, I'll tell you in a minute how to work with that. But the thing is here, for your soul to prosper, for yourself to prosper, I don't care anything, any form of healing, any form, for you to even prosper financially, physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, any way you want to put it, fear is the number one thing that stands in the way. And the first, how do you handle the fear? First of all, by not fighting it. When you fight the fear, it makes it worse. How many know what I'm talking about? Thank you, thank you. It's the fear makes it worse in anything. Financially or anything. It's something going wrong in the family, something here. And with Betty, it was fear of losing her son. She just lost her 6-year-old girl who accidentally ran out in the street and a bus hit her. She was already trying to recuperate from that. And now all of a sudden, her son, John, had this terrible thing happened to him, meningitis and encephalitis. Not just one, but both. And I said, "We got to take care of you first. You got to let John go." You know, we don't like to hear that, though, do we? I said, "Let go. Let go. Put him in the hands of God. Let go." And I held her hand, and we prayed right there. And I said, "Okay, now, we let go. We let go. And she let go, and she felt all right. I said, "Now we can go in there and pray for John." And I went in there, and I want to cut the story short because I want to get at some other things here. But what happened when I went in there, I felt to put my hand on his forehead. But I was afraid to do it because the room was totally dark. The blinds were drawn, and he had those blindfolds over his eyes because there was so much pressure in his head that I didn't want to physically touch him because of that problem. But I felt to do it, but I didn't. And so I walked on out after we prayed, and Betty came chasing after me, and she said, "Stop, stop." I said, "What's the matter?" She says, "Oh," John said to me, "Oh, Mother, if Brother Rocky only would have put his hand on my forehead." I said, "Betty, I feel so bad. I wanted to do it, but I knew he was in so much pain. I felt an urge to do that, but I didn't want to hurt him." She said, "Would you come and do it?" I said, "Sure." So we went back in there. I said, "Okay, John, are you ready?" And I'll never forget, all I did was just hold my fingers just a few inches like that, and I began to vibrate. Just a few, and all of a sudden I touched just with the one finger here, and he screamed, and he arched up this way, and he screamed, "Mother, I'm healed," and fell back down. The nurses came running in, and Betty went to the nurse. She said, "Don't worry, don't worry." She said, "Well, what's going on in here?" She says, "Oh, it's just the pastor praying for him." Because of how loudly he screamed. He was so loud with it. And when he screamed, "I am healed," everything left him instantaneously. We all love instantaneous healing. We all would like instantaneous healing. But most healing, let me tell you, takes place gradually. So the thing is, we always want to force it. So the second thing is, in this case, it was instantaneous because he was in so much pain. It had to happen instantly. It was so strong, it hit me on the top of my head, went down. It's a form of energy. I want you to say, where does this energy come from? Let me tell you, this energy abides in our bodies. This healing force abides in our bodies, and it's in the air around us, and it's in the heavens above us. It's everywhere. Everywhere. This healing force is here to work with us all the time. But the trouble is, we don't have faith in our bodies. We don't do that. And we're always trying to force everything. So, fear and force. We're pushing it. Those two hinder healing. And you get negative with it. We get negative with it. Can't help it. You don't want to think about what's wrong. You want to flow with what's right. And that's what's tough with healing, is because we're concentrating on what's wrong. Just like I was doing that myself. My healing song that we all sing every once in a while. There is healing in my song. There is healing in my words. There is healing in my touch, the touch of love. There is healing in my hands. There is healing in my mind. There is healing in my heart. For God is healing me. But even when we sing it, we don't direct it to ourselves. And that's when I was so sick myself. Oh, by the way, in 3 days, I'm gone on to something else now. In 3 days, John was out of the hospital, and when the doctors came back, they couldn't find a thing wrong with him. His eyes healed. There's more to the story, but that's not my point. I wanted to get at those ideas in the story about fear and force. When I was coming down with something myself, I was in San Antonio and I had to get here to Atlanta to speak. It wasn't at this church, it was at a Christian church in Marietta. And the Church of Christ it was. And so I had to speak there. They were interested in the Aramaic. And 2 or 3 days before I had to go, I came down very, very ill. What was I going to do about this illness? You know, I couldn't go. My wife said, you're going to have to call and cancel. I said, no, I'm not going to call and cancel. But you're sick. I know. And then so she left. That was in the morning. I couldn't get out of bed. This was on a Wednesday. No, on a Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, I left on Thursday to fly out to come here. So it was on a Tuesday morning. And I couldn't get out of bed. And I just lay there in the bed thinking, you know, I don't believe in sickness. I mean, don't we teach that in New Thought? We don't believe in sickness. I don't believe in sickness. There's no reason for me to be ill at all. I acknowledge a truth. I'm one with God, and I am well. I threw the covers off me, stood up, and passed out. Luckily, the floor was carpeted. My wife heard the bang on the floor, and she came running down the hall into the bedroom, and she said, what's going on? And I said, ugh. I was coming out of it. I said, I was practicing truth. No, I was forcing it. I was forcing it. And so when I realized that, and I climbed back in bed, she says, you're going to stay there today. So she went back into the kitchen, and I just lay there. And, but there was something inside of me. I heard a little voice, and it was singing. There is healing in my song. There is healing in my words. And it was a small, small little voice. Because the rest of me was saying, oh my God, I didn't feel good. But this other voice was singing in me. Until finally it dominated me. And I started singing it, lying there in the bed. And all of a sudden my fever broke. I broke out in perspiration. This time I threw the covers off me. I knew I was well. Not trying to force anything. But my body was doing the healing. Through Spirit, I mean, God enabled us to have this healing. So I got up and went straight into the kitchen. And I said to my wife, would you please fix me some hot tea and some honey with a little lemon in it? She said, yes, but you get back in that bed. I don't want you fainting here in the kitchen. There's no carpet. I said, then never mind that. I said, I'm well. And I sang the song to her. And even though I was weak, I was well. And I was able to fly here on Thursday, go to Marietta, and do speaking Friday night, all day Saturday, and the Sunday services. And why? Why? Because I allowed that to take place in me. As I was telling you, I was up near the Buffalo area just a couple of weeks ago and working with these students, and we were doing this healing. And it was only for the graduating students. There was only 10 of them in the class that I do on Friday night. And so I was working with healing, and I went to this one that I was working with healing, and I put my hand on them like this, gently. And I didn't know it, but she had she had lupus, but I didn't know it at the time. But I felt drawn to her and put my hand on her, and I could feel the flow of the energy flowing. But as I was doing it, then I felt the flow come back. Come back. I thought, what's going on here? I said, come on. I said, let go, and allow that to happen. Allow that, and she'd allow it, and then resist it. I said, you're resisting it. I said, you don't want healing. You want to keep your sickness. I didn't know what it was that she had, but I knew it was something. Of course, they all came to me, told me later. There was open, and later I talked to her. She says, I don't know. She says, I felt it. I felt the healing go through me, but all of a sudden, I just like pushed it out. And she said, but I could feel it, because she was so sensitive to the energy, so sensitive to it, that she could feel it coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. Can you imagine that? How she felt this? It was so powerful, then yet she was resisting it. I said, but that's your own energy. Your body was attempting to heal itself. And that's what you have to realize. And you know, the song, what I realized in that song, I realized the body is always working to heal us. Right now, in your seats, right now, no matter what, maybe even things you don't even know is going on in your body. You don't even know it because the symptom hasn't shown itself yet. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because we're bombarded all the time by all kinds of things, by the environment, by the air, by the toxic foods, by the toxic air, by the toxic water, by everything. And besides that, how about our mental toxic thinking? You see, what we suffer from is not thinking, it's toxic thoughts, TT. Toxic thoughts. It's toxic thoughts that help weaken the cells. It weakens the cells. You know, we think, what happens? Let me explain about thought, how thought works. We think that thought alone is a healer. No, what happens is the thought transmutes into an emotion or it transmutes itself. Do you understand what I'm saying? Transmuting, it's changing form. It changes form. I always tell people, let me look at you and I'll tell you what you're thinking. The thought transmutes into form, and it affects the cells and changes the cells. All of that. Thought, like violence. What is a thief? A thief has allowed the thoughts, the toxic thoughts, to transmute into form and then into action. That is what a thief is. It's a thought. I see something of you I don't have. Instead of earning it or going to learn that way, it's easier to break in the house, I think. But what gives me the energy to do that? The thought has to transmute into an energy in the body. All the cells have to line up with it. And then the action to either take your purse, break into a house. Some people who are thieves do it because they're on a dope kick. And the dope is what's driving them to go do it. They're thinking, I have to get money some way, so I'll do it by taking it from that person. Because and you see it, we get toxic thoughts from listening to the news, from hearing our politicians. Come on, don't look at me so strangely. We get toxic from listening to our politicians because they are toxic themselves. There's no one free of toxins. No one. But how do we cleanse from it? By being not afraid. No fear, no force. This is the way to self-healing, the practice of self-healing. You have to be aware of this. And then fill yourself with the good thoughts. When we gather here on Sunday morning, when you come to classes, what are you doing? You are detoxifying. What are you so quiet about this morning?
All that Thanksgiving turkey.
You're toxic from Thanksgiving? From too much sugar. Well, I had the same thing you did. But when we expose ourselves to music, to love, to hearing truth, to hearing things that are good, it detoxifies us. And the cells know it. Because remember what I said? All thoughts transmute. So if you're hearing a good thought, the good thought transmutes and detoxifies the body for healing. It's the same thing with finances. Same thing with everything. It's how are you thinking? I liked what our meditation was this morning. I bless my money. Notice she said, I bless my money. Well, you have to bless your body too. Bless your body. And that person who was resisting the healing, not resisting me, I can't heal a flea. No one can heal a flea. But I tell you, your own soul can heal you. And what you think can heal you. And we think it's just feeling. No, the thought will transmute into a feeling. It will transmute into the feeling you need. You know, when people are in depression. For instance, I had another person one time who came to me. This was in San Antonio. She came to me in a wheelchair. And she could not move very much. She had to be wheeled around all the time. And she couldn't move. And they brought her up to me, and I'll never forget, I took a hold of her hands. I said, now you let go of your body. Let go. And bless your body. She felt good. She got up and she stood up, something she hasn't been able to do. And in fact, that night she went dancing. I forgot the name of that disease that people get that they can't move. But anyway, it gradually is supposed to come on you in the nervous system. And she couldn't move, and yet she went dancing that night. Then after about a week, she called me up again. She says, it's coming back on me. I said, well, come on down to the office. So they brought her to the office. She had to be wheeled in again. And I had to talk to her. And as long as I stayed within a certain proximity of her, she got well. And she got up off the wheelchair. And as long as I was with her, she could walk. I said, now you just, I said, what is it? It is not I. I said, it is the energy. I says, it's you. It is you. Remember, Jesus never took the credit for any of the healing, did he? Did Jesus ever take credit for the healing? What did he say? Your faith has made you whole. Your faith has made you whole. Your attitude. Faith is an attitude. It's an attitude. And the attitude is there. I know I will get well if I get with this healer. Right? That's what these people felt. If I get with this healer, Jesus, I will get well. That's the attitude. But what I'm talking about is you can do it at home. You can do it anywhere. And if it takes me going with somebody, okay, I don't care as long as you get it done. Right? Whether it's through somebody else or through your own self. Let it be. Let it be. And when you do, then you feel it. You feel it. So, what I'd like to do in conclusion, let's do it right now, shall we? regardless of what it is. Now, and we're going to do it with the song. And I'll get to the piano and play it, but I want you to get the words. Don't write it down. You know it's easy. That's the trouble, when people write down the words and they're looking at the words, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. What's going to work is, and you don't need to come up here, and I don't need to put my hands on you, because you're going to put your hands on yourself. All right? So take everything out of your hands, and I want you to relax, and I want you to think about the words of this song. Okay? I'm going to give it to you, and then you can repeat it after me. There is healing in my song. There is healing in my words.
There is healing in my words.
There is healing in my touch.
There is healing in my touch.
Yeah. The touch of love.
The touch of love.
Yeah, it's a special type of touch, right? It's a touch of love, a touch of affection, a touch of care, right? All right. So I'm going to say that. Notice this: there is healing, there is healing, there is healing. Isn't that easy? Yes. What you are doing is you are affirming. This is a non-toxic thought. This is a healing thought. Okay? There is healing in my song. And what does a song have? Words, right? So the next thing will be song, words, and then touch. What kind of touch?
Love.
Yeah. Come on now. I mean, you all look. We don't love ourselves or touch ourselves, just, oh, that feels so good, especially here. Right? I mean, we use that part of our body more than anywhere else. And we very seldom touch it or pet it. Except maybe when we're cold and we want to get warm by a fireplace, and don't we do this, right? The energy for this. So, say it again. There is healing in my song. There is healing in my words. There is healing in my touch. The touch of love. Okay, now, whose song?
My song.
Whose words?
My words.
Touch yourself. My song, my words, my touch, the touch of love. Ooh, honey. We don't think of honey when you touch yourself, do you? We always think of honey as somebody else. Sweetheart is somebody else. Darling and precious is somebody else. Right? Unless, of course, you're narcissistic. But most of the time we don't. It's always out to somebody else. But I want you to get the real feel of the song. That's how I got healed. Because it was really coming from within, not from without only, see? Yes. So there is healing in my song. There is healing in my words. There is healing in my touch. The touch of love. Now, there is healing in my hands. Come on, look at those hands. Look at them. Look, you looking at them? There's healing in those hands. Come on, tell your hands that. Yeah, your hands are wonderful. Tell you that. Tell your hands that. You bring all kinds of actions for me. Come on, now say that.
Bring all types of actions.
Don't look at me. Look at your hands. You're talking to your hands. That man talked to his soul. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, didn't he?
Yes.
He's talking to himself. All right. Look at your hands. You bring me all kinds of wonderful things. Even when I make love. Right? Oh, come on, you look. Ooh. The electricity that is there. The power that is there. Oh, there is healing in my hands. There's healing in my mind. That's all over your body. The mind's all over your body. I didn't say brain. I said body, mind, right? We are mind, body. There's healing in my mind all over me, right? There is healing in my heart. Hand, mind, heart. You got it?
Yes.
Hand, mind, heart. Come on now. Don't be afraid to touch it. Ooh, come on now. Love that heart. I mean, it never stops. It's just like God. It never stops. It's always in movement. Always, always. Thank God we didn't have to count it. Just think of every beat if you had to count it, what it would be like. Oh, that feels so good. Come on now, say that. It feels so good. Come on now, rub it a little bit. Oh, you're such a doll. I'm talking to your heart, right? You're doing such a good job. And I've been very hard on you, right? Doing such a good job. Tell yourself that. Come on, talk to your heart. Your heart is thankful. So your heart is saying, yeah, beep, 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 right? So there is healing in my hands. There is healing in my mind. There is healing in my heart. For God is healing me. Notice in that continual progressive tense. And if those of you maybe when we sing this song, I want you to be touching everything. And then we're going to sing it 2 or 3 times. And if you're having trouble with your finances, grab your purse. Okay? Grab your purse. And hold your purse. And there's healing in my purse. For God is healing you. Right? Come on now. Don't look at me so strange. Good. You got it. You're with it. You want healing in your purse? And since we guys normally don't carry a purse, healing in our pockets. Oh, you got one. Okay, good. Or wallets if you like. All right? So let's do it. But I want you to touch yourselves first. There's healing in my song. Touch where your song comes from. There's healing in my words. There is healing in my touch. The touch of love. And you can touch, if you want to touch anywhere where you're maybe having a problem, go right ahead. Okay? No one's going to look. Because you're looking at yourself. All right? And there's healing in whose hands? There's healing in whose mind? There's healing in whose heart? For God is healing who? Okay. There is healing in my song. There is healing in my words. There is healing There is healing in my heart, for God is healing me. There is healing in there is healing in my words. There is healing in my the touch of love. There is healing in my hands. There is healing in my mind. There is healing in my heart. For God is healing me. There is healing in my song. There is healing in my words. There is healing in my touch, the touch of love. There is healing in my hands. There is healing in my mind. There is healing in my heart. For God is healing me. Now sing it again with your wallets and your purses. There is healing. There is healing in my words. There is healing in my touch, the touch of love. There is healing in my hands. There is healing in my mind. There is healing in my heart. For God is healing me. Now, one more time, and this time, touch the person next to you and sing it to them. All right? In your song is healing in your words. There is healing in your touch, the touch of love. There is healing in your hands. Yes, there is healing in your mind. There is healing in your heart. For God is healing you. All right? All right. Thank God. You see, you got rid of Thanksgiving. You've got something else going in you. Keep it the rest of the day.